Hey everybody, and Tony here with my review of Verdi's Aida with once again conductor Nicola Luisotti, which I saw at the Staatsoper unter den Linden. This marks the third time I saw this production by Calixto Bieto because I wanted to see and hear Teresa Romano as Amneris, who took over an indisposed Ketevan Kemoklidze who was supposed to sing that same role. So without further ado, my thoughts on Teresa Romano as Amneris. It's been 9 years since I first heard Miss Romano in an entirely different role, which was Turandot, when she did that at the Arena di Verona. And ever since then, she went from singing all these spinto / dramatic soprano roles to singing a lot of the dramatic mezzo repertoire. It was such a surprising leap because I did not expect her to sing these type of mezzo roles and make them part of her current repertoire, but a part of me was not surprised considering that she has been maintaining the role of Amneris ever since her soprano years. And even when she sang as a soprano, she kept the role of Amneris intact from her soprano years all the way up to her current mezzo-soprano tenure. I was initially skeptical with how Teresa Romano was going to fare as Amneris, considering that I do have extremely high expectations for this particular role. But my skepticism melted away in terms of how she was able to imbue Amneris with pomp, elegance, pure emotional abandon, and great emotional, psychological, and vocal investment, thus making her interpretation of Amneris serviceable in my eyes. And she had very good chest tones that she was able to flaunt so well, and also good moments where she was able to use head voice really well. But more than anything, her vocal assets were her chest tones that were full for the most part, and she was still able to fling those top notes quite securely with everything that she's got. I say serviceable because although she had those audible chest tones and she was still able to launch at those top notes, and although she can have some moments of good head voice coordination, there were several moments where she forgets to coordinate head voice and chest voice, thus making her sound hollow and even making her sound extremely throaty when she tries to have a go at coordinated chest voice. It's not just the throatiness that has otherwise hampered her performance, but also that uncoordinated chest voice, some occasions where she was kind of squally in her top notes, some occasions in which she didn't sing certain passages at full chest, thus making Amneris supposedly a lot stronger when she sings in full chest, and having moments where she sounded quite unsupported. That is not to say that Teresa Romano was a bad singer. Far from it. She was actually decent as Amneris, chest tones and all, as well as her overall elegance and pomp and sheer emotional investment. However, her tendency to sing with a collapsed head voice and uncoordinated chest tones made her performance suffer. For instance, when she launched her curse, Empiarazza Anatema Suvoi, in her judgment scene, she sang that particular line with collapsed head voice when it should actually be full on chest to perfectly illustrate Amneris's unhinged rage at Ramphis and the high priests for condemning Radames to death. The way Teresa Romano sang those notes was pretty underwhelming and made the overall effect of the judgment scene come off on a whimper. At least she was able to salvage herself in her final moments when she was singing Pace t'imploro with sufficient chest tones. It says something when dramatic sopranos and Zwischenfach or Falcon singers have way more chest tones and even coordinated chest tones at that, such as Laura Hilgerman, Edith Walker, Anna von Mildenburg, Olive Fremstad, Margareta Matzenauer, Emmy Krüger, Sarah Thessar, Martha Fuchs, Gertrud Rünger, Annika Netzny, Helena Braun, Erna Schlüter, Margaret Harshaw, Rossi Deli, Astrid Varnay, Regina Resnick, who went full-on mezzo since 1955, Irma Essenyi, Ingrid Stiga, Sigrid Kiel, Christa Ludwig, Shirley Verrett, Fiorenza Cosotto on her good days, Fiorenza Cortez, Mirella Paruto, Grace Bumbry, and Isolde Eichlepp. And lest I forget about the great Gena Dimitrova, who was absolutely amazing as Amneris, although she established herself as a dramatic soprano for many years. And she was at her A game as Amneris far more than as Aida. And I also dare not forget about Giulietta Simeonato, who could also sing both soprano and mezzo-soprano roles effectively. And if we're talking about real mezzo-sopranos with stronger, deeper, richer chest tones, you can never ever go wrong with the likes of Irene Mingini Cataneo, Gianna Pederzini, Chloe Elmo, Elena Nicolai, Ebe Stignani, Bianca Berini, Laura de Dier Gambardella, and two of my most favorite mezzos of all time who sang Amneris, Aurelia Dominguez and Elena Obraztsova. Whether they be sopranos or Zwischenfach singers or mezzo-sopranos, those aforementioned singers that I mentioned were the real deals as Amneris, especially were the likes of Margaret Harshaw, Astrid Varnay, Shirley Verrett, Grace Bumbry, Gena Dimitrova, Gianna Pederzini, Ebe Stignani, Elena Nicolai, Aurelia Dominguez, and Elena Obraztsova are concerned. With Teresa Romano, her faultiness in terms of trying to coordinate head voice and chest voice, as well as the consequence of having unclear vowels for not coordinating head voice and chest voice, were extremely evident. Nevertheless, despite Teresa Romano's vocal flaws, she did make the role of Amneris her own. I do wish that she coordinates her head voice and chest voice well in order to make her performance a lot more fully realized, because as she was tonight, she was faulty in some areas. Nevertheless, I still give her credit for rescuing the entire show by replacing Ketevan Kimoklitsa, who fell ill, and also for doing a sufficiently laudable job in giving Amneris her pomp, elegance, and emotional investment. Even with all of her vocal flaws, like faulty projection of head voice and chest voice, equally faulty coordination of the registers, as well as unclear vowels, she was still able to deliver some of the goods in her chest tones, as well as imbue the role of Amneris with elegance, pomp, and complete emotional abandon. Maria Jose Siri was actually quite better in her performance as Aida than she was 2 days ago. In fact, when I was doing my further research on Maria Jose Siri, I found out that she sang the role of Aida 20 years ago, and she launched an incredible high E flat during her triumphal scene. I assume that she no longer sang the high E flat during the triumphal scene anymore because of her current commitments in the meatier and more dramatic soprano roles such as Tosca, Madalena de Coigny, Santuzza, and Adriana Lecouvreur, which sit quite heavily in the middle and have been weighing on her voice for quite some time, even with her upcoming engagement as Santuzza in Cavalleros di Canna. And her current engagements in these meatier, more spinto/dramatic soprano roles have not only been weighing down on her voice in not the best way possible, but have also, as I stated before in the previous video, made her registers go all over the place, let alone be compromised, because she did start off in more lyrical roles like Micaela, Mimi, and even the more lyrical yet dramatic part of Desdemona from Otello. She did have the makings of a fine lyric soprano before trying her luck out in spinto/dramatic soprano roles. At least what she managed to retain throughout her career were her ever reliable top notes, which she was able to launch with full abandon, and they were a lot more audible considering that she has been maintaining those top notes for years. Yes, the problems with her in terms of coordinating head voice and chest voice are still there. She still sings with collapsed head voice, especially in the first act of the opera. However, she did get better in the second half and she was able to coordinate head voice and chest voice, but it was kind of too little too late. At least she was able to be more vocally secure in the second half of the opera, but I highly encourage Maria Jose Siri to continue developing her chest voice as well as keep on coordinating head voice and chest voice so that her overall registers can be fuller, richer, and way more present than ever before. Although I still love Maria Callas, Leila Gencer, Gabriela Tucci, Montserrat Caballé, Marissa Galvani, Adelaida Negri, and Aprile Milo as my most favorite Aidas of all time, I still have to give some credit to Maria Jose Siri for improving vocally as Aida. The fact that she was able to be a lot more vocally present despite her vocal flaws was quite a feat in of itself. And even though she still has a lot, and I mean a lot, of work to do in coordinating head voice and chest voice so that her registers don't go all over the place, let alone end up tattered, she was still able to be emotionally and vocally invested as Aida to the point where she was a lot more theatrically convincing in this role. Victoria Random continues to do an absolutely amazing job as Temutis, the High Priestess, all thanks to her silken and lovely lyric soprano voice that was silvery all throughout the registers and absolutely lovely to listen to. Eva Magri also improved really well as Radames, even though I am still not a fan of his lyrical yet nasal tenor voice. He was able to project his notes a lot more outwardly, and he became a lot more vocally secure in terms of singing over that orchestra and making it project throughout the theater. Yes, I still wish for more Heldentenor beefiness, let alone that sword-like quality that I've always loved in tenors like Ramon Vinay, Hans Beirer, Mario del Monaco, Franco Corelli, Lauritz Melchior, Ludwig Suthaus, Max Lorenz, and Seth Svanholm, but in terms of what Ivan Magri accomplished as Radames, he was still serviceable, and he did improve quite well in stark comparison to his performance in this role 2 days ago. His voice is not one that I would call particularly suitable for Radames, but he was still committed to his craft, and he was still able to just improve overall, even though he should really stick to roles such as Rodolfo from Bohème, Ruggero Rastuc from La Rondine, Pinkerton from Madama Butterfly, Roberto from Le Villi, Alfredo Jamon from La Traviata, Arrigo from I Vespri Siciliani, and Nadir from Le Pêcheur de Perles. He should just remain in the lyric tenor repertoire and leave Radames to the big boys, i.e. the Heldentenors, the dramatic tenors, and the spinto tenors. Just leave Radames be and just stick to the lyric tenor repertoire, because I'm confident that this is the type of repertoire that even Magritte should continue singing rather than have a go at these more dramatic tenor roles. Gonzalo Quinchoal grew in fine vocal beauty and equally stronger vocal shape as the messenger, all thanks to his continuously flourishing and absolutely gorgeous toned full lyric tenor voice that has the potential to keep on growing and blossoming with every engagement he has, and I salute him for his equally fine musicianship. Despite my expectations for a steelier and stronger sounding messenger. But what more can I say about Gonzalo Quinchoal in terms of what he was able to accomplish as a fine lyric tenor? I have always argued that Erwin Schrott can fit Amonasro a lot more than Ramphis because he doesn't have the vocal darkness, depth, and cavernousness to make Ramphis the high priest come to life vocally, but I could forgive that particular caveat because he was still able to be not only vocally charismatic, vocal flaws and all, but he was still a strikingly handsome figure on stage with an equally strong stage presence. Despite Erwin Schrott having insufficient depth, darkness, cavernousness, and richness for the role of Ramphis, and he'd be more suitable to sing Amonasro given that he is a natural bass baritone slash baritone, leaning towards more of a baritone, I could still give Erwin Schrott a good amount of credit for at least projecting, even though it's not a voice that I like for Ramphis. Grigory Shkarupa grew vocally stronger as the king of Egypt, and one by one, his issues with his throatiness were kind of going away. He just needs to continue with great dark sounding and strong squealo singing if he is to get rid of that throatiness. I know I was rather harsh with Alfredo Dazza as Amonasro, but my arguments of his voice sounding throaty, shouty, screamy, and rather woofy for Amonasro, as well as not having sufficient darkness, roundness, and richness as Amonasro do hold up. However, this time he sang way better. He sang with a lot more vocal presence. He was able to sing over that orchestra. He didn't sound inaudible, and while he could use a lot more nuance, a lot more squealo, and a lot more vocal depth, he was still able to deliver the goods in vocal acting and how he was able to throw himself in this role with everything he's got. Yes, as I stated before, he doesn't really have that additional heft and additional darkness, roundness, and richness of a true baritone, let alone a bass baritone singing Amonasro, but Alfredo Dazza continued to be a committed singing actor who was able to just sing the heck out of his curse toward Aida, and he did what he had to do a lot more as Amonasro, and he grew into the role sufficiently well. It's not a voice that I love as Amonasro, but I have to give Alfredo Dazza a good amount of credit for showing marked improvement and for giving this role the emotional abandon and strong physical and theatrical presence and timing that he needs. So overall, with Teresa Romano taking the helm from an indisposed Ketevan Kemuklitsa as Amneris, she was able to do a serviceable job, vocal flaws and all. While I can never deny the issues that she has with throatiness, as well as not coordinating chest voice and head voice as well as sounding pretty squally in her top notes, thus making her overall performance as Amneris quite hampered in certain areas. She still had strong chest tones in certain areas, as well as her usual flair for drama, thus making Amneris a character rich in pomp, elegance, and emotional abandon. She still needs to work on coordinating chest voice and head voice if she is to give a more vocally satisfying performance as Amneris. But other than that, I still have to applaud Teresa Romano for her professionalism and her willingness to jump in for Ketevan Kemoklitsa as Amneris. The other singers managed to show marked vocal improvement in their respective roles, from Maria Jose Siri sounding a bit better as Aida and even having moments where she can coordinate head voice and chest voice, but she still needs to work on that coordination. Even Magri being more vocally present as Radames, although this role is not really ideal for him. Erwin Schrott projecting a lot more, even though he might as well just sing Amonadro and leave Ramfis to the real basses. Grigory Shkarupa being way less throaty, and Alfredo Daza growing into the role of Amonadro, even with his vocal flaws of throatiness. But despite whatever issues that Alfredo Daza had with throatiness and sounding quite shouty in certain areas, he was still able to vocally project everything he's got and sing and act with pure emotional abandon. The ones who were consistent all throughout these performances of Aida were none other than Gonzalo Quinchawa's handsomely sung Messenger and Victoria Randem's gorgeously sung and sinuously amazing High Priestess. The conducting done by Nicola Loisotti was still big and brassy and quite fast in certain areas, and he could definitely show a lot more nuance in the quieter moments and in the moments that call for a little bit more passion and intimacy, but he was still able to keep up the energy of the orchestra quite well and quite serviceably, although he does need to have a lot more nuance in his conducting. And what more can you expect from the chorus, orchestra, and extras of the Staatsoper unter den Linden? They were all reliable, all around, using every talent that they've got to make this evening quite something to witness. So overall, Teresa Romano replacing Ketevan Kemoklitsa as Amneris was quite the surprise, as well as an enjoyable treat, even with all of Teresa Romano's vocal flaws. Sure, she was woofy. Sure, she was throaty in many areas. Sure, she tended to forget to coordinate head voice and chest voice, but her dedication to singing chest tones, as well as using her elegance, pomp, and dramatic flair to her advantage, definitely made me, as the audience member, totally invested in her performance as Amneris. She still needs to polish her coordination of chest voice and head voice if she is to continue the dramatic mezzo route that she is currently working on, and who knows, maybe with certain forays into the soprano roles like Santuzza, she could still be able to have those opportunities to make sure that her usage of head voice and chest voice and coordinating them with everything that she's got will still hold up. And she just needs to keep on polishing it, and she just needs to keep on continuing to make sure that her voice does not go away by coordinating head voice and chest voice. And for those of you who caught this performance of Verdi's Aida at the Staatsoper unter den Linden, what'd you think of it? Did you enjoy Teresa Romano's performance as Amneris? Did you feel like she was vocally and theatrically secure in this role? Did you also feel that she needed to work on her technique a lot more, i.e., coordinating head voice and chest voice? Or did you feel like her performance was lackluster? Please comment below and let me know. Well, that's it for my review of Verdi's Aida, starring Teresa Romano as Amneris. Tune in tomorrow for my review of Mozart's Così fan tutte live at the Hans Eisler Musikschule. So until then, good night, everybody.